Hi, I'm Kathy Moore, and this is Steps in a Journey, which is a class on the spiritual life in which we travel together to the eternal life. We've been studying in this class Augustin, and we've been reading the Confessions by him. We are going to continue today on Book 10, Chapter 6. He has been talking about, in Book 10, about why he wrote Confessions, because here he is a bishop, and many people know his past life, that he wasn't a very, quote, holy person. And so he explains, why he wrote Confessions is that people know what he is like on the inside. And then that led him to what is God. And his love for God, and that's why it came about that he became converted to the Catholic faith and then bishop. So we'll start. I'm going to read out of this book today because this translator is Rex Warner, and it just reads a little bit better than the book that we have been reading out of. So chapter 6, Book 10, chapter 6. There's no doubt in my mind, Lord, that I love you. I feel it with certainty. You struck my heart with your word, and I loved you. But see, heaven and earth and all that therein is on every side are telling me to love you. And they never stop saying it to all men, that they may be without excuse. Because Scripture shows that all heaven, you just look at the things of nature and you know that there is God. And they all say, love God, love our Creator. Continuing, but more deeply wilt thou have mercy on whom thou wilt have mercy, and wilt have compassion on whom thou hast had compassion. Otherwise, heaven and earth are telling your praises to dead ears. But what do I love when I love you? What do I love when I love God? Not that the beauty of the body, nor the glory of time, not the brightness of light, shining so friendly to the eye, not the sweet and various melodies of singing, not the fragrance of flowers and salve for healing and spices, not manna and honey, not limbs welcome to the embrace of the flesh. It is not these that I love when I love my God. And yet I do love a kind of light, melody, fragrance, food, embracement when I love my God. For He is the light, the melody, the fragrance, the food, the embracement of my inner self. There, where there is a brilliance that space cannot contain, a sound that time cannot carry away, a perfume that no breeze disperses, a taste undiminished by eating, a clinging together that no satiety shall sunder. This is what I love when I love my God. And what is this God? I asked the earth, and it answered, I'm not He. And all things that are on the earth confess the same. I asked the sea and the deeps and the creepy things with living souls, and they replied, "We are not your God. Look above us." I asked the blowing breezes and the universal air with all its inhabitants, and they answered, "Augustin was wrong. I am not God." And Augustin is the philosopher I was just talking about. He lived in the 6th century BC. And he taught rhetoric, and he taught that air was God. And sometimes people believe that when they say God is everywhere. What else is everywhere? Is air, so God must be air. But that's not right, because air is not God. I asked the heaven, the sun, the moon, the stars, and no, they said, "We are not the God for whom you're looking." And I said to all those things which stand about the gates of my senses, "Tell me about my God, you who are not He. Tell me something about Him." And they cried out in a loud voice, "He made us." My question was in my contemplation of them, and their answer was in their beauty. And I turned my attention on myself, and I said to myself, "And you? Who are you?" And I replied, "A man." Now I find evidently in myself a body and a soul, the one exterior and the other interior. Which of these should I have employed in seeking for my God? I had already looked for him by means of the body, searching from earth to heaven, as far as I could send the beams of my eyes as messengers. But the interior part of me is the better. It was to this part that all the messengers from my body gave in their reports. And this part sat in judgment, weighing the replies of heaven and earth and all things within them when they said, "We are not God," and when they said, "He made us." The inner man knew these things by means of the ministry of the outer man. I, the inner man, knew them. I, the soul, knew them through the senses of my body. I asked the whole mass and frame of the universe about my God, and it replied, "I am not He, but He made me." Is not this appearance of the universe evident to all whose senses are not deranged? Then why does it not give the same answer to all? Animals, small and great, see it, but they cannot ask the question. They are not gifted with reason to sit in judgment of the evidence brought in by the senses. But men can ask the question, so that the invisible things of God are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. But by loving these things, they become subject to them. Because when you love something, they almost become inferior to you. By loving an object, and subjects cannot judge. And these things will only answer the questions of those who are prepared to judge. Not that they alter their speech, that is, their appearance. If one man merely looks at them and another not only looks but asks his question, they do not appear one thing to one man and a different thing to the other. They look just the same to both. But to one man they say nothing, and to the other they speak. If you look at a dog, everyone sees the dog, they see it the same way. But others see that dog differently. They can understand what the dog means. Or, that's my own statement there, Augustin continues, or it be truer to say that they speak to everyone, but are only understood by those who compare the voice which comes to them from outside with the truth that is within. For truth says to me, your God is not heaven or earth or any other body. Their very nature declared this. Obviously, there is less bulk in a part than in the whole. And now, my soul, I say to you that you are my better part. You animate the whole bulk of the body, giving it life, a thing which no body can do for another body. But your God is for you, too, the life of your life. So when we say our soul gives life to our bodies. And even though the soul is just a part of the body, it gives life to the whole body. Chapter 7. What then do I love when I love God? Who is he that is above the summit of my soul? It is by my soul herself that I shall ascend to him. I shall go past that force in me by which I cling to the body and fill its frame with life. It is not by that force that I can find my God. If it were so, the horse and mule that have no understanding might find him, since their bodies too live by this same force. But there's another force, not the one to which I give life, but the one by which I give perception to my flesh. The Lord created this power in me, commanding the eye not to hear and the ear not to see, but giving me the eye to see and the ear to hear by, and so allotting to each of the other senses its own particular duty and function. And through these senses, with all their diverse functions, I act, retaining my identity as one soul. But I shall go past this force too, for the horse and the mule have it too. They also perceive by means of the body. So he's talking about the power within your person. One is the power of life, which all living creatures have. But how is God different from this? We also have the power of perception. We have the eyes, we have the senses to see and perceive things. Our eyes see, our ears hear, our fingers touch and feel. We can taste things. And he says the animals have this too. They have this power of perception. So we go on to chapter 8. I shall pass on then, beyond this faculty in my nature, as I ascend by degrees toward him who made me. And I come to the fields and spacious palaces of memory, where lie the treasures of innumerable images of all kinds of things that have been brought in by the senses. There too are my thoughts stored up. If by thought we have increased or diminished or in any way altered those things with which our senses have been in contact. And there is too everything else that has been brought in and deposited and has not yet been swallowed up and buried in forgetfulness. So we bring things into our memory which we also can change once brought into our memory. And we can also forget the many things that we brought into our memory. Augustin says, when I'm in this treasure house, I ask for whatever I like to be brought out to me. And then some things are produced at once. Some things take longer and have, as it were, to be fetched from a more remote part of the store. And some things come pouring out altogether when in fact we want and are looking for something quite different. They thrust themselves forward as though they were saying, surely you must be looking for me. Isn't that the way our memory works? We want something, but something else comes up. We go into our room for a reason, but what it is doesn't come to our memory. Something else comes forward. We go in there for a piece of paper and we come out with a scissors. Something says, surely you came in the room looking for me. The same thing with all of our memory cells. What are we looking for and what's coming out? With the hand of my heart, I brush them away from the face of my memory until the thing that I want is discovered and brought out from its hidden place into my sight. And some things are produced easily and in perfect order, just as they were required. What comes first gives place to what comes next, and it gives place and it is stored up, ready to be brought out when I need it again. All this happens when I repeat something by heart. The words come out in the order in which I've memorized them and put them into my memory. Our phone numbers come out the way, in the order we want them to. Our social security number is embedded in our brain. We can't say the last four numbers. We have to say the whole thing in our mind first before we can say the last four numbers. But they're all there in our memory. He continues, here are kept distinct and in their proper classifications all sensations which come to us, each by its own route. For instance, light, color, and the shapes of bodies reach us through the eyes. Light, color, shapes of bodies reach us through our eyes. All kinds of sound through the ears. All smells by the nostrils. All tastes by the mouth. And by the sensation of the whole body, we derive our impression of what is hard or soft, hot or cold, rough or smooth, heavy or light, whether from outside or inside the body itself. And the great harbor of memory, with its secret, numberless, and indefinable recesses, indefinable recesses, takes in all these things so that they may be reproduced and brought back again when the need arises. They all enter the memory by their various ways and are all stored up in the memory. Or rather, it is not the things themselves that enter. What happens is that the images of the things perceived are there ready at hand for thought to recall. Precisely how these images are formed, who can tell? Though it is clear enough which sense was responsible for seizing hold of them and storing them up inside us. For even when I'm surrounded by darkness and silence, I can, if I wish, summon up colors in my memory and tell the difference between black and white and any other colors. And while I'm considering the images drawn in by my eyes, sounds do not come running in to disturb it, though they too are in my memory, stored up, as it were, in a separate compartment. For I can call for sounds also, if I wish, and they are present immediately with no movement of tongue or vocal cords. I can sing as much as I like. And those images of color, which are still there in the memory, do not break in and interrupt when I call for something from that other storehouse which contains impressions brought in by the ear. In the same way, I call up at pleasure all those other things which have been brought in and stored up by means of the other senses. I can tell the difference between the smell of lilies and of violets, though at the time I'm smelling nothing. I prefer honey to sweet wine, something smooth to something rough, simply by memory and without using the sense either of taste or touch. All this I do inside me, in the huge court of my memory. There I have by me the sky, the earth, the sea, and all things in them, which I have been able to perceive, apart from what I've forgotten. There too I encounter myself. I recall myself, what I have done, when and where I did it, and what state of mind I was in at the time. There are all the things I remember to have experienced myself or to have heard from others. From the same store, too, I can take out pictures of things which have either happened to me or are believed on the basis of experience. I can myself weave them into the context of the past, and from them I can infer future actions, events,